Welcome back to Whip Tips. This is part 2 of how to replace your timing chain, alternator, harmonic balancer, and I forgot what else. What else did I replace? Oh yeah, the front crank seal. So anyway, let's just get into the video. All right, so this took me about an hour and a half, 7 or 8 razor blades to get that gunk off that was there before. It wasn't a gasket. I don't know what it was. It had just like solidified and attached itself to the aluminum. And then I'm going to clean off. This is just kind of oil residue here. I'm going to clean that off. And I've done some cleanup on the front. But you know what? I'm not going to spend the rest of my life cleaning this thing up. So I'm going to set it up to punch out this seal, and then we'll keep going. All right, so I got the seal out. What you do is I just set this up on a bucket so I didn't mess up the aluminum. And you just work your way around with a small flat screwdriver carefully, just kind of pounding on the seal itself, not on the aluminum sides. And so now all I have to do is clean that up a little bit and get rid of the gunk and everything else. And this is pretty much ready to reinstall. I've got it cleaned up. I'm just gonna put a little bit of oil in there. Just work it around the inside. I'm gonna take my Mopar gasket, put some oil around the outside of that. Oh, my hands are filthy. All right, I'm gonna place it in with the flat side facing out. Okay, just gonna kind of rest it on there. And then what you're going to do, I'll come back because I need both hands for this. You're going to take a piece of wood, a flat piece of wood, put it on top, and then tap it down, tamp that seal down. Just using a piece of wood, and then I'll come back and show you how to get it fully seated after, because it's only going to go so far in with a piece of wood. You got to follow up with something. That's seated now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a big socket. This is the biggest one I've got. Doesn't quite fully go around the whole seal, but I'm just going to use this to tap around it until I get it seated inside. It's supposed to be recessed a little bit, and right now it's pretty much just flat with the outside. If you have an even bigger socket that fits perfectly, that's awesome. But I don't, so I'm going to have to work with this. I'll come back when I'm done. There you go. You can see how it's recessed. It's fully seated now. And now this thing is ready to go on when I finish with the timing chain. And after using a couple of, razor blades here and a wire brush on a drill, I got the engine side cleaned up and ready to go as well. Here's my new timing set. It's a cloyes heavy duty set. I'll put the link and part number and everything in the description below. But basically I've arranged it here so that when you pull it tight, everything lines up the way it should. And what I'm going to do, I put white paint so I can see the timing marks. And I mentioned in my earlier video, your timing setup has to go straight through like this, like a line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this up as a unit, and I'm going to put it on the timing, the crankshaft and the camshaft, where those keys will line up, and hopefully everything goes on smoothly. But I'm going to switch to GoPro for that, so let's see how it goes. Hey y'all, somehow I managed to just kind of put the new alternator in and hang it there without recording it, so I apologize, but I have not installed the alternator. You can see it off to the left here in this still capture. All that is I wriggled the new alternator into place. It had that same metal sleeve. If you look at part 1, there was a section where I showed you a metal sleeve that kind of goes through and tightens up against the bracket. You just have to adjust that a little bit. But it goes on, you can wriggle into place, it goes on, and then you make sure that the sleeve extends out far enough so that there's no play. And then here I've just hand tightened a nut on the other end of the bolt just to hang the alternator in place to make sure I don't forget it. So I apologize for not having the video on there for doing that process, but it's really not difficult. So anyway, let's keep going. Apologize for the noise outside. The lawn guy has showed up, and he's right as I'm doing my video, he's working right outside the window here. So I'll tell you what, before I transfer the timing set as a unit, I just want to do a little more cleanup here get some of this gunk off. I had such a hard time getting the actual the old sprocket off, the stock sprocket that came, I think, from the factory. And I want to make sure that I don't have that problem again. And I'm going to coat that with a good amount of motor oil as well, just to make sure, or hopefully make sure that that it'll slide on nicely. The upper one is not a problem. I may put some oil on there anyway. It's this lower one that just took me hours to get off, to remove. But I'm gonna oil up the top one anyway. I'm just using regular motor oil there. All right, here we go. Hopefully I won't have to videotape this 10 times because I keep screwing up. Excuse my hand if it gets in the way. It's really difficult to do this without getting in the way of your camera. All right, so. All right, so that looks good so far. Timing marks are pointed in the right directions, and I may have to grab a piece of wood and kind of hammer that down, hammer that home, the crankshaft sprocket. But let me do a little bit of prep here, and I'll come right back. I think if I'm under, I hope this is the right thing to do. You know what? I'm going to do it on my Jeep, and you all. A lot of you guys have tons of Jeep experience out there and everything, so please leave a comment if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure that if I have a big socket, and I do, if I can find it, I can use that to try and hammer it home. The problem is that I don't have a lot of room to hammer. So, I mean, that would fit and do it, but the amount of room I have to actually haul off and hit this thing there is none. There's no room here. So, I mean, I can tap it like that. I don't know. So, I'm going to give this some more thought, and I'm going to come back. All right, so I'm just going to try and do what I can. You can see I started to put on the installation kit for the harmonic balancer because I thought that might work. But I didn't have anything of the proper dimensions. Like a pipe section might work, but I didn't have a pipe section. So all I had was sockets, and I just couldn't find anything. But that's one option for you if you've got sections of steel pipe laying around, small little sections. I did get it started, and I'm basically just tapping now. Man, I've got like a whole, like 3/4 to 1/2 inch to go. I'm wondering if I can risk tap, tap, tappity tap. Tap, tap, tap. Don't you like your home? The only way I could get leverage to pry is if I put something up against the frame here, but the metal of the frame, the cross member here that I'm kind of resting the GoPro on is so thin. I mean, that would bend it right away. So I don't think there's any way for me to lever it. Yeah, it's definitely going on, but it's very, very slow. And I oiled everything up, just so you know. Like everything. I put a whole layer of on the sprocket itself and the actual cam or crankshaft. And I want to be careful not to turn this thing. Right now it's in perfect, top dead center. And I don't want to knock that off. All right, yeah, I think I'm making little bits of progress at a time. Let me see if I come in from underneath. Maybe I can give it a harder strike. Man, that is slow progress. Got transmission lines in the way. I've just got all this crap that's preventing me from really getting a good strike on this surface. Maybe I can get a smaller hammer. But the thing is, with this big sledge, it gives me some momentum. That took forever. So that took forever. I don't know if, hopefully I can get this on somehow without, it's just going to be trial and error, I guess, I didn't see any other YouTube videos where people had this problem. But this Jeep, man, I'll tell you. Like, I think that's right. I think I'm just going to tappity tap that on home. And that's right. I can see from here. Well, I got slack here. I'm okay having slack down there, not up here. Because like I said, this is going to rotate a little bit before it catches. And before I know it, I'm out of... I'm like one tooth off. So I want it to go like that. I'm just going to slip it down one tooth. Yeah, good luck. I'm not going to be able to get that. Son of a bitch, what I should have done was hammer it on while the chain was on, but I was worried I'd hit the chain. So here's where I am now. I got the lower sprocket on. Took me forever. But you can see there's a little bit of slack up here. I wanted it super tight. There's like no slack. Well, there's a little bit of slack down there. I don't know. I don't know what to do at this point. The marks are lined up for sure. They're definitely lined up. I may just crank this over a little bit until it's taut and see how it lines up then if I lose alignment. So I'm going to tap this all the way in, see if that gets, yeah, that's way too slack right there. So at this point, I'm going to have to crowbar this off again, put them on as a unit, and then tap this on. You know, make sure this is tight, the top part is tight, and then put this on while the chain is on. Tap my my socket. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove all this, crowbar this sprocket back off, and then go from there and reinstall. I'll come back when I'm set up for the reinstall. Remember, y'all, you do not crowbar against the face of the crankcase right there. If you look in the last video, I used a crowbar and a pry bar to get that lower cam sprocket off because it's so tight. And that was some advice I got looking at XJ and Wrangler forums online. But that metal is kind of thin in spots on the front of the crankcase, so you do not want to use a crowbar. Look at my last video. I show you a picture of what you should do in terms of getting a 3-jaw or a 3-hook puller, etc. So anyway, and in fact, you know, here I was tired and kind of impatient. I could have kept trying to tighten it up with the upper sprocket, etc. Maybe, but in general, you know, pulling this whole thing apart and redoing it was worth the time, because eventually I did get it right. And you definitely want it in the direction of the actual crank shaft rotation. You do want that top of the chain to be very tight. Otherwise, you know, that bottom crankshaft and the top camshaft sprockets are going to be off by half a tooth, in some cases a full tooth, depending on how much slack you have. So anyway, let's keep going. All right, here we go again. Now, I think I've got this all set. Looks like I am off a little bit. Let's try this. That's got it. All right. Tappity tap. Everything's in alignment. Still a little slack there, but I got to be honest, it's the same on either side. Not as much slack as there was before, though. Just for kicks, I'm gonna go ahead and thread this in and whew, just see what happens if I crank it over just to take up a little bit of slack. If it's off, it's not off by a full tooth. But anyway, this should give you an idea of, like, you know, how careful you need to be about these things. Last thing I want is to crank this over and start throwing P codes or whatever, you know, timing codes. It's entirely possible that's going to happen. No clue. So I'm not turning it far just to take up the slack. You know what? That's perfect. That's really, really quite good. I can't believe this is a new chain. This is cloyes. I've heard melon is just fantastic. Maybe I should have gone with that, but you know what? I'm not doing this again. That's close enough for me. So we're going to keep going from here. Let me get that off. And then the next step is going to be, oh, by the way, you can see my alternator is hanging up there now. Hopefully you can see that. So I got my alternator hanging in place now, so I won't forget it. And next thing we're going to do is come back over here. And I already showed you the video of how I hammered in the seal for the timing cover. We're going to put RTV along the outside of this. I have to figure out, I ripped my one side of my felpro oil pan gasket, so I'm going to have to figure out, I may just RTV the heck out of that, so don't laugh at me. And then I think once we put RTV on both sides of the new gasket that's going to go on here, then we just bolt back in the timing cover. So let me just do some prep and I'll come right back. What I'm going to do next is they send a tube of gray RTV, but I like RTV black, especially in environments where I'm going to be dealing with a lot of oil. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my RTV black, I'm going to run a bead all the way up from under here down the bottom of the oil pan to the other side. Then I'm going to lay this flat, try and align the holes as best I can. I have a limited amount of time to work this. Then I'm going to run a bead down through the center here to hopefully make a good seal with the oil pan above. Now the cover, I'm sorry, the timing cover above. The cover, just make sure that the outside is clean where the RTV is going to go. So it has a good bonding surface and everything. And I'm just looking at it, realizing that I missed a spot. So I'm going to do that real quick off camera with a razor blade, and then I'll come right back. Let's go ahead and get started. I've got this off camera ready to install. Of course, that's backwards. This is the filter, not the filter, the gasket that comes with the felpro kit. I was surprised to find out this is paper. Now I probably understand why cleaning off the last gasket was so hard. It's paper. It probably rots over time, gets hard, and turns into a concrete-like substance. That's going to go right there. And then once I get those in place, then I can put the timing cover in place and then go from there. So, yeah, that should about do it. Let me go ahead and clip the RTV nozzle. Never know where to clip this. It can be hard to squeeze out if you don't have a wide enough nozzle opening. The camera is literally right where I need to be in order to get space to do this, but that's okay. All right, it's starting to come out. Normally I wouldn't do this. This felpro gasket should be enough, but since I snapped off one end of it, I don't know what it's going to do in terms of stretching and everything. So I'm just running a bead around the bolt holes over the bottom here. I can't see because it's black on black. And I'm going to go around this bolt hole. And then I'm going to go up the side. And I'm going to put a liberal amount around here because that's where the tear is. And I'm just going to smear a little bit around this bolt hole. All right. So now I'm going to carefully put that in place. Clock is ticking now because I've done this. I don't know what the cure time is for RTV, but I'm just making sure that the bolt holes down low all line up and everything. So there we go. That should do it. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to put a layer around these bolt holes. Now, I don't think you need a lot for this, for the cover job, but I am going to run a nice bead because, look, I'm tired of being embarrassed to park my Jeep at friends' houses because it's going to destroy their driveway. And I've done the rear main seal already. I did it back before I was trying to do YouTube videos, which kind of stinks because that would have been, I have so much work I did that would have been great video content. All right, let's start with that hole. Wait, I think I got it wrong. Let's start down here so I don't do that again. Just making sure these line up with the respective bolt holes. This RTV is great stuff, but it gets everywhere. Okay. Now I'm going to run a small bead on the outside. This one is much thin. I'm making this one a little bit thinner, just because I think I did too much on the other side. All right, so let's see who's paying attention in class. What did I forget to do? Anyone? Anyone? What did I forget to do? Something kind of important. Forgot to do this. I believe this is 50 pounds torque. So I'm going to go ahead really quickly, get my torque wrench. trying to move fast so the RTV doesn't set up before I get this done. $16. I'm pretty sure it's 50 pounds. I'm doing 60 just in case. Hopefully I don't strip all these threads out. Oops. See what I mean about there's some slack now? I don't know if you can see that. See, by turning that, I introduced all this slack. That is why you don't want to use this bolt to turn things when you're trying to set up timing. Okay? That is not what you want to do. In fact, I am going to move this back just in case. All right, now we're ready for the cover. If anyone knows a different torque spec for this, please let me know. I really don't want to have to crack into this again. Oh, you know, one thing I forgot, before I do this, you know, I've got that new seal on the front of my timing cover. I want to put some oil on that now, just in case I forget. So I'm putting some, just putting some motor oil around the seal right there, so that when it comes time to put back on the harmonic balancer, that's already pre-lubed. All right, let's see if I can get this to go in right. Now, ideally, it should, you know what, maybe it's a good thing that this snapped, because I can do that. Because this should sit in a trough, like in the trough of that, yeah. Actually, that might work out really well for me. All right, well, I'm not 100% convinced that this is going to hold up because that ripped there. But you know what? I put a ton of RTV there. We'll see. I have a good chance of this working out. Now, I've got my map. All right, y'all, sorry for yet another voiceover. I did something really stupid here. I forgot to put the timing chain dampener inside the timing cover. So I got this whole thing almost put back together before I realized my mistake. So I'm going to insert a couple of videos here that kind of, you know, they go back in time, essentially. Actually, you're going forward in time. But just so you can understand and not make the same mistake I did. Remember to put that stupid thing in. Look what I found. I realized, oh my gosh, I did not put back in the chain guard. This basically protects the side of your case from chain slap, essentially. Well, y'all, here I am. Got her back open. I decided, after talking with some people who knew a lot about XJs and how they run and everything, that probably a good idea for me to put this piece in that I forgot. So I've done this job twice now. Trust me, when you first start working on XJs, you're gonna do this too. Hell, any car. And so I got her back out, and I want you to watch me as I put this thing using one hand and trying to use the camera as my eyes in the little slot where it goes. There it is. All right. That's where it belongs. That's where it will stay. Looks a little bit wide to me, but that's okay. I'll adjust it. The other thing I'm going to do is I don't know how long this is going to sit before I actually get it put back together and everything. It might be sitting for days. So I'm going to put some assembly lube on the chain, just a little bit, because it's kind of dry. I'm going to put some on the teeth as well. I mean, it's really dry. It doesn't have any oil on it whatsoever. I am so sorry. I keep lowering the darn phone. So I'm putting it over the teeth, on the chain. Then I'm just going to go and make sure it's in there. Just running my finger over it. And assembly lube is just a little bit thicker, right, than motor oil. It's a lot thicker than motor oil. So it tends to hang around for longer. And that'll really help, I think, when I start this up for the first go. I don't want to start metal against metal dry. Anyway, all right, thought I'd throw this here in the middle to show you what happened and what I did. This is probably the right thing to do. So now we're going back to where we were. You know, I'm not going to redo showing you how to put on the paper gasket and all that stuff in the RTV. Now we're going to proceed as if I had never made a mistake at all. So we've got the timing cover on, and now we're gonna start putting the bolts in using the map that the cardboard kind of map that we used at the beginning. So I've got my map, and I'm going to just start threading these things in one at a time. I'm just going to hand tighten them for now, just make sure they go through. Oh, that's not a good sign. What's up with that? Oh, I'm using the wrong one. What's the point of having a map if you don't use it, right? I gotta get that hole. Remember, these two were loose. I'm going to make sure those get tightened down. Now, I'm not going to torque these. Like, this is just, I'm just doing this by feel. Like, because you got an aluminum case here, and I don't want to crack it or do anything like that. So, you know. That one's not going in straight, so I'm going to put in some more in other locations where I can actually see what's going on. It's weird how it's not threading. Like, I can see them straight on. I don't know if a little bit of the gasket is sticking out or something. Yeah, I think a little bit of the gasket is sticking out. So I'm going to tighten these little ones first, because then I got to come back and put on the bracket and everything. I'll make sure that's straight. It doesn't feel straight to me. All right. So let me go and just hand tighten these. That one's not going on. So I'm going to hand tighten this one. That's pretty snug. There we go. So now let's get these on. I know I still have to tighten these ones over here. Let me see if I can point that up just a little bit. I know I have to tighten these ones up here at top, but I want to put these studs in. So now I'm going to come back here and tighten these up. It's got that. Okay. Can't remember what size these are. Are they 16? I think they are. All right, don't forget this one. It's also a 16. All right, it's got that. And then we're going to do the ones underneath. I'm actually going to have to get under there to do these, I believe. And that is not a 10 millimeter, but it is a, I believe it's 11. Yep, 11. All right, gotta clear out some space here. Now I'm not going to go crazy on these ones in the bottom because this is going into the aluminum. And so, you know, I'm just going to do it just tight enough, you know. This is your first time doing something like this. You've always got to be careful about working with aluminum parts when you're trying to bolt something into aluminum. Threads are very, very fragile because aluminum is so soft. All right, timing cover back on. Let's get that bracket back on. Ah, I did not know that that was going to happen. So, it's all right. I think it's just hand tightened anyway. What's going on is this has to go outside the bracket, so. There we go. just going to hand tighten these nuts on, and I'm not going to torque these either. I'm just going to do these just to the point where I feel they're tight enough. I'm not sure where the long and short bolts go. Well, that could be a problem. I wonder if I'm missing a nut too, because I accidentally kicked my bolt tray. Well, that actually threads in, I believe. So I'm not missing anything. Your alternator is really only held in by 2 bolts, one down here, down at the bottom, and this one up top that's off camera right now. So I'm going to tap that. I lost my hammer. Gotta tap that bracket up just a little bit. I wonder if it's because this is pulling it down. Can't get this bolt in right here. It's just off. Well, I don't want to strip anything. All right, let's go ahead and see what happens. Those are 15s, 15, 15. I'm going to do the bottom alternator bolt. I'm going to need, this is just spinning on the other end, so I need an adjustable wrench. Unless this is a 15. Yeah. I don't want it to hit the coil pack. There, that'll work. It's resting against the head, and I'll tilt that up. So I've got a 15 on the back end, 15 on the socket. Let's just go to town. And as you tighten this, it's actually going to push the metal sleeve further in. So that'll tighten up as well. All right, that's good enough. I'm going to do the bottom. All right. Now I'm going to do these. Don't know why that's giving me such trouble. This one. So my GoPro died as usual. Finished tightening up all these, all the bracket nuts. This thing's really solidly in there. Nice to have a new alternator. I've connected the positive line in the back and the ground line as a plug that you have to connect. So anyway, that's not going anywhere. That's good to go. And then the next thing is, of course, we can't forget that we have a harmonic balancer to put in there. After the harmonic balancer, we can put back on the pulley for the water pump. And it's nice to be in reassembly mode because just for so long, you know, when you have your car apart like this, it just gets depressing because I'd like to drive this thing again, you know. So anyway, let me prep things. I'll be right back. All right, so I'm all set up now. Got the new harmonic balancer aligned with the key. You can't see it because I've got these washers in here. This big bolt and this big kind of threaded rod section attaches to the actual insert that's inside my crankshaft. And if you come over here, you can see there's a flat section right here. I'm going to put an adjustable wrench on here to hold it in place. And then I'm going to crank down on this bolt or this hex nut and push everything toward there. It's going to pull on that insert that's in my crankshaft, so hopefully that'll hold. Hopefully for some reason, like the dimensions of this harmonic balancer aren't off by 1,000th or a couple of thousandths. I'm gonna have a really bad day if that's the case. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and press this and come on back. All right, so I'm about halfway there. You can see that the collar of the harmonic balancer right here where my finger is, if you can see that, I don't know if the light's coming through. That's about to pass through now the actual oil seal that's in the that's basically surrounding the crankshaft right now. So this is sliding on that key, and I got a ways to go. It's definitely hard going, but it's consistent. If you reach the point where it just won't budge, back off and check it out and see what's going on. Right now though, we're good, so I'm gonna keep going. All right, got her torqued down to 80 foot-pounds. And the way I kept it from spinning this time is I just took a pry bar and I shoved it through one of these gaps in the balancer here and rested it in, there's a ledge. Probably not the safest thing to do, but there's a ledge inside there where if you used a pry bar with the right kind of curve at the end, it'll rest on that ledge. You just hold on to the pry bar and with the other hand, torque it down to 80 foot-pounds. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to try and get this this pulley back on the water pump, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so I've just kind of hand tightened those. Hopefully I'll have, once the serpentine belt goes back on, I can't remember if there's something that goes in front of that. I don't think there is, because I'm going to do this before I put the fan on, if I can remember. So hopefully I'll be able to tighten those down tighter than they are now anyway. All right, so I have now put back on the AC compressor mount. I started by getting this bottom one through first. It's not even hand tight yet, but I've just got it threaded through. There's a nut on the other side. And then I just hand tighten the top two and the one that's hidden in the back. So now I'm just gonna go and tighten everything down, get it good and tight. I'm not gonna torque anything. I'm just gonna get it super, super tight and then move on from there. Y'all, I apologize. Yet again, I lost a video clip here. From here, after I put the mount on, you just basically, you tighten all the bolts, make sure they're good and tight so it's not going to go anywhere. You can torque if you want to. It's up to you. I did not. I just made them really super tight. From here, all you do is grab your compressor where it's sitting back toward the back of your engine bay. In the disassembly video, part 1, I showed you where to put it and how to do that. It's really simple. You've got those 4 long bolts. You put the compressor back on top of the mount, and then you tighten down those bolts. And I also did not torque those. I just made those super tight. So there you've got your compressor on. Super easy job, not that hard to do. And then from here, we'll keep going, I think, with the actual replacement of the fan. So anyway, got the compressor on, got the fan on. Basically for the fan, you got to put the fan pulley on first, then the fan itself. Then you put on those 4 small 13mm bolts. And you basically just tighten them. You go around spinning, tighten one thing, then it gets snug, go to the next, tighten it. And you have to keep doing that over and over again. One thing to help yourself with is there's a shaft coming out that goes into the back of this mechanical fan unit here. Just lube up both the shaft and where the shaft goes, and that'll make it a little bit easier for you. And at this point, we're putting the belt back on. Now, you've got to essentially look up your own schematic for your Jeep. For my 2000 XJ four-wheel drive with the 4.0 liter engine, the belt starts, the way I do it is I thread it onto the, or loop it onto the alternator that you can't really see back there because the fan's in the way. And then I bring it up here and I loop it around the compressor. And at the same time, the flat side of the belt goes against that mechanical fan pulley right there. And then you can see both come down here. One loops around the harmonic balancer, and then the flat side of the other end of the belt loops around that water pump pulley, and then it comes over here, and the flat side goes against the tensioner right there, and the grooved side loops around the power steering pulley. So once you've got that all set, then your next step is to, hold on, let me get the camera set up. Once you get that all set, then you're going to put tension back onto the fan belt. Excuse me if I said timing belt anywhere in there. I meant fan belt. So we're just going to do the reverse of what we did before in setting all of this up, where we're going to take I believe this is 15mm. Yeah, 15mm, and you're just going to start tightening these. And if you've got a electric impact, go ahead and use it. I'm not using mine because I don't want to wake people up. It's like 5 in the morning while I'm making this video. But basically, you're just going to tighten this bolt here that pushes the tensioner up against the belt itself, and you'll start to feel the bolt tightening up a little bit as you go. But I really loosen this thing up a long way, so it's going to take me a while to get to the proper tension. And there are specs in terms of deflection that you're going to want on the belt, but what I usually do is I just get it really super tight until there's very little deflection at all, and then if you go too loose, you'll know. The fan belt will squeal when you start the engine and all that, so it's getting tighter. Almost there. All right, that's about it. There's hardly any. You can see as I push this, it's very difficult to get any deflection. We're just about there. I'm just going to do a couple more turns, and then we're done. And like I said, if this is too loose, I'll know. Things will start squealing. If it's too tight, I'll know, because the belt will break. So from here, what I'm going to do, and I might show this, I might not. From here, what I want to do is, remember, I have to tighten these bolts down that hold on the water pump pulley. right now they're just kind of snugged on there, and I have to tighten up the 4 bolts. Let me get out of the light here. The 4 bolts that are back there behind the mechanical fan with a 13 millimeter in that case. These are 13 millimeters. And then these must be 14, I think. I can't remember. They may be 13 as well, but they're either 13 or 14. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten those up, and then I'll come right back. And the reason by the way, the reason I waited is because now with tension on here, I'm hoping that it keeps these pulleys from spinning while I tighten those bolts. So we'll see. I'll come right back. One other thing you don't want to forget, that bolt right there for your tensioner pulley. Remember, we had to loosen that up to loosen the belt. You got to retighten that down really, really good. I'm just doing these to the point where I think it's a good tightness. I'm not doing any torque specs or anything like that. And same with these smaller bolts. Those are 13s actually on your water pump pulley, and these are definitely 13s in there. So anyway, got those all tightened down. Next thing I'm going to do is move on to basically rebuilding this thing, doing the reverse of how I took it apart. So we're going to take the condenser, I'm losing my mind, radiator assembly, and we're going to put it back in, and I'm going to attach the lower transmission cooler line first, then the lower AC line first, then I'm going to go to the uppers and attach those, and then I'll start rebolting all the stuff on the front end. So we're in the home stretch. Let me get this set up. I'll come right back. All right, so here we go with reconnecting the transmission line. This is the lower transmission line, and it should just be as easy as pushing it in until I hear a snap. Yeah, got to give it a good push and make sure I don't trap this underneath there. Okay. Transmission line is reconnected. The actual radiator assembly itself, let me just pull it out real quickly, and you're gonna have to go upside down here, sorry. The transmission assembly itself has, I'm not gonna do this, there are 2 holes in the frame for the for the radiator and condenser assembly, and there are rubber kind of vibration dampening things at the bottom of your radiator transmission down here and down here, and those just go in the big holes in the cross member on the front of your XJ. So now we're going to try and get the camera set up, and I'm going to hope that this goes well. We're going to try and do the lower AC line. Just like it was difficult to pull the AC line off, it's going to be very, very difficult to put it back on, I would guess. I hate working with Jeep AC lines. So let me see what I can do here. And that won't get out of the way. You know what? Let me put a little bit of AC oil on there. I'll come right back. I'm going to put a little bit of air conditioning oil on there. Both the upper and lower AC lines are oiled now, and I don't really care about replacing the O-rings at this point, because this whole AC system is shot. I've put in a new, what's it called? Not condenser, the part that goes next to your heater core in your dashboard, whatever that is, evaporator. I put in a new one of those. But eventually I'm going to have to replace the lines, the compressor, the dryer, and the condenser. So I don't really care about having it completely airtight with new O-rings right now. Doesn't really matter. If and when I get around to doing this, I'm just going to draw a vacuum for a long time, make sure all the water gets out, and start from scratch. I have no idea what's wrong with this AC system, other than I have no idea what's wrong. I can't figure it out. Yeah, this is always hard. Very, very hard. It's going to be really difficult to show you too on camera, because my arms have to kind of get in the way. if you can see that. Let me put the light over here. Basically, I've got these two lines I'm trying to put back together, the lower AC line. Okay, there it went. Yep, that got it. I don't know if you could hear that, but there's an audible click. Now, before I forget, I am putting this in. I'm putting the shroud in, the mechanical fan shroud, while I can rock the condenser radiator unit back. So I'm just going to kind of hang it right there. I'm not going to bolt it up or anything, because you can't do that till the top cross member's back in anyway. Don't forget to do it at this point. It's the easiest time to do it. And you can even do that with your electrical fan as well. And I just might, as a matter of fact. As you can see, the slots where it goes and all that, and that's it's just easier to do it right now, and hope that your electrical stays in its slots. So we're doing lots of connections right now. We've done the lower transmission line. Now we're going to do the upper. Then we're going to do the upper AC right here. And then we're going to go under the car and do the lower coolant hose. And then we're going to reconnect the upper coolant hose over here. Okay? So let's go ahead and get this transmission line done if we can. So let's go ahead and do the upper transmission line if we can. If I can figure out a good place for the camera. Ugh, there is no good place for the camera. It's right in here where the camera just slipped. So it's right under here where we're going to be connecting that transmission line. Move all these hoses and stuff out of the way. So I'm just going to kind of thread it on. There's no O-ring or anything that goes here. I don't think. If there is, it wasn't on here when I took it apart, so someone let me know in the comments if that's the case. Alright, so now gotta find out what size socket goes on there. I can't remember. Or a combination. Let's try 17. That is a 19 millimeters. All right. Hopefully that's good. I'll find out if it's not. All right, let's go over to the other side. Do the AC line, last AC line. Hopefully the oil helps. There we go. Did you hear that click? We're good to go there. Okay. Now, in pulling this apart, I bent these lines a little bit, so I'm just going to adjust it outward and downward a tiny bit. And again, I did that carefully, but to be honest, I'm replacing the condenser eventually anyway. So if that happens to you, just be very, very careful if you've got a condenser you care about and AC lines you care about. So anyway, also, we are going to have to replace these. Don't forget these clips that go on, but I'm going to wait until after I get my hose reconnected, just so that there's one less thing in my way, because this is kind of an awkward spot and an awkward angle. Sure, yeah. Just want to make sure the bottom goes on enough. Move that out of the way. All right, that's got it. That's fully seated. Now we're going to, I may have to bend the AC lines again if I can't get this sleeve, because they're rubbing right up against the sleeve. Yeah, just sliding this, whatever these things are called, sliding it in place there is really, really difficult. Now, if I remember correctly, you know what, I'm gonna do it again, because I want to be able to access that easily if I have to do this again, which I will. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna rotate it. All right, let's do this again. All right, so now let's get this down here. So why did I rotate the hose clamp? Well, now the bolt's down lower, and once this cross member is on, it just makes it easier. If I get it at the right angle, it makes it easier to access that. Now I'm going to put these on. And again, these just slide on. Get them so they're not hitting that hose too much. Those just slide on like that. Remember, these go over where the two AC lines join. These go over to keep the AC lines on and in place. And you just don't want to lose these. Okay. Next, we're going to tighten up the hose clamp right here. So mine's an 8mm. I'm going to make sure it's even too around your hose. The last thing you want is to be driving down the road, hit a bump, have this hose fly off, and next thing you know, all your coolant's gone. But you also don't want to tighten this too much, because this is a crappy plastic radiator part right here underneath the hose that the hose slides onto. So just be careful. Now I'm going to slide this sleeve back where it belongs. All right, you're going to do the same thing that I just did here. You're going to do the same thing under the car with your lower radiator hose. All right, so I'm not going to show that, but it attaches to the engine block. Actually, it attaches to the water pump nozzle, and do the same thing. Be careful with tightening it. Make sure that the hose clamp is on even, and I'll be okay. So I'm back. I have gone ahead and placed the cross member on top of the radiator. Remember, I took these two nuts here and here, and I stored them on the actual radiator. So I had to remove those first, then put the cross member down. I'm going to tighten those two up. I've placed I made sure that my electric fan is in the slot. I connected the electrical connector over here and moved it out of the way. I'm going to have to tighten these two small bolts for the electrical fan. I'm going to have to tighten these two bolts, small ones, for the mechanical shroud. Mechanical fan shroud. Don't forget to put the mechanical fan shroud in the slots that are at the bottom. You can't see them here, but there are slots that this goes into. And then we're going to tighten. You should have two bolts here. One of mine snapped off. We're going to tighten that bolt. These two bolts. I'm not going to do it to torque specs, but it's really easy at this point, right? Two nuts on the top connecting cross member to radiator. 4 bolts at either end. 2 on one end, 2 on the other, and then make sure you tighten up your fans and reconnect your electrical connector. And one other thing, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last section of video or whatever, but there is you can't see it here, but your lower transmission line, the way I've got it right now, it's loose. And if I were to start the car right now, it would rub up against the lower, it would rub up against the harmonic balancer, and I'd very quickly get a ATF leak. And then bad things would happen to the car. There's a little bracket down there that bolts to the frame. Don't forget to tighten that bolt. I'm going to do that last. I'm telling you now in case I forget to do it on camera. So I'll come back after I've tightened up the cross member, and then we'll get on to the next stuff. Okay, so got everything tightened down. Don't forget to attach your overflow coolant hose to the filling spout here, the side of it. I had to get a new one because I had a problem with leaks, vacuum leaks somewhere in my hose. So, I put in this zip tie to keep it tight to the frame there. You don't want this thing rattling around and folding over into any of the fans. And then a little clamp that I got it from Amazon or something, a bag of these metal clamps. And going to my new reservoir over here. So put all that together. I put zip ties on the ends there just in the hopes it'll keep it tighter. And, tighten down all these bolts, and we're ready for the next step. I am actually, I don't know if this is by the book, but before I put on the front and the lights and everything, I want to test all the work that I've done. So at this point, I'm going to fill the radiator with as much coolant as I can. I'm not going to burp it yet, but I am going to get as much coolant in there as I can. I saved as much as I could when I drained it. I'm going to put all of that back in if it'll take it, and then I'm going to crank the engine and run it for a little bit, just to see if the new harmonic balancer is on right, and see if it throws any codes for timing. So that way, if I have to take it apart again, at least I'm part way there. I won't have to take the cowling and lights off again, all that kind of stuff. So I'll come back when I'm ready, but basically, look, if you don't know how to fill up a radiator with your coolant, there are videos. I'm putting a funnel there and I'm dumping coolant in. And if you get concentrated coolant, make sure you mix it with distilled water so that you don't get chemical reactions with the metal of the engine block as it goes through time over the years. So anyway, I'll come back when it's filled and we'll see if we got any code. So before I forget, I want to show you where that bracket is. You can see how close the lower transmission coolant line is to the actual harmonic balancer. Not a lot of clearance there, so you want to make sure that you tighten up that bracket right there. It's a little, well, it would help if my light would stay put. Little bolt right there. Make sure you tighten that down. Get this thing secured so it stays put. I'll switch into GoPro really quickly because I forgot as I was going through this whole process of putting the cross member back on. You have 2 bolts also, and those bolts, the lighting's not great, but those bolts go right in here at the end of the cross member, like behind here. There's one there, and there's one over here somewhere. Yeah, it's right here. Right there. Okay? Don't forget those 2 bolts. I actually finished up and had these 2 left over, so I'm coming back to tell you. Okay, so sorry for it being dark in here, but it's dark in my garage right now. I just connected everything, filled it with as much coolant as I can. Now, I'll tell you, if everything goes smoothly here, I'm not going to do this on the video, but eventually, after you put your front end back together, you're going to need to burp the system, and you may need to add some transmission fluid. So don't forget to do that. If you don't know how to burp your coolant system, plenty of videos out there how to do it. I'm not going to cover it in this video. It's long enough already. But let's go ahead and start it and see what happens. I'm a little bit nervous, but here we go. Huh. I didn't get any of the normal startup sequence here. I'll probably have to put this in learning mode, but so far so good, no codes. It does sound a little bit different. I don't know what's going on with that sound. It almost sounds like the chain hitting up against the side. All right, so one thing I noticed, if you look at the belt, see that silver streak right there? It was rubbing up against one of the AC lines down there because I had forgot to put in this plastic clip that kind of pulls the AC line out of the way. And I added a zip tie down here just for good measure to make sure that this AC line right here coming off the back and then curving toward the front of the engine. So I'm going to start it up again, see if that was the noise, and hopefully it was. Much better. Man, this sounds like a new engine. I gotta be honest, I'm really pleased with this. Even though that cloyes timing chain wasn't as tight as I would have liked, this is just running really smoothly, really nicely. I'm going to check and see that my voltage is doing what it should. I'm kind of doing a pseudo burp as I go here, but so far so good, y'all. All right, there she is. Nice paper towels on the front. So from here, I'm not going to film the rest of this because basically you're just doing the reverse, putting the body parts on, okay? And then once you get done with that, then you're going to do your burping. You may have to check your transmission. Remember, with the XJ, you check transmission fluid level with the engine's at running temperature, not when it's cold. And the engine has to be running when you do that. So make sure you check all those fluid levels because, you know, more may have leaked out than you realized. So from here, what you're going to do is, remember, you've got this wire loom, right? You're going to take that wire loom, you're going to rest it across the bumper. Then you're going to take your front cowling piece and you're going to snap the little securing snaps like these, you know, in the holes where they go. And then you're going to start putting together the nuts and bolts of your front bumper piece. Don't forget to feed these side lights through the holes in the side Need to do that. And then once that's done, then you're going to put your light bevels back in and your grill back in across the front, and you're done. So congratulations, you just did the chiming chain. If you did the alternator like I did, you got a new alternator in there, and you're on your way to having an almost brand new engine at this point, which is basically what I have, the amount of money and work I've put into this. So anyway, XJs, right? Love them and hate them at the same time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Doc out. Oh, you made it to the end. That's awesome. Listen, I'm Doc. I'm the one who's, the voice behind these videos. And I really appreciate you taking the time to actually watch the whole thing. That's fantastic. If you've got time, if you want to, if you like the video, hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the bell button so you get notified of new videos when I put them up. I'm going to try and do one a week. And I'm going to do a bunch of Instagram stuff, so make sure you follow me there and on Twitter. Instagram's going to be the shorter stuff. I don't have any merchandise yet. I'm planning to as the channel grows. If I succeed, I'll get some merch. For now, if you really want to help me in another way, you like these videos enough, I'm going to put links to my books in the description of the video. I'm a science fiction author in my spare time as well, so I'm juggling a lot of balls. But anyway, I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you at the next one. Hey, do me a favor and turn this junk off. I don't know how to deal with tech.